All right, welcome everyone. We are just opening the waiting room. We're going to give it about a minute to get started, just in case anyone is still trying to get in. And I will turn it over to our host, Miguel de Jesus.
Awesome. Thank you, Paige. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for making time on your schedules this morning to share not only your time, but hopefully your thought process. We have some great opportunities this morning to listen to a few items that are probably very relevant in our current state of the economy, as well as the current state of a variety of businesses throughout the marketplace, from retail and manufacturing to the service industries. And our opportunity this morning, and our hope, not only for us, but for you, is we can in fact stimulate some thinking in areas that could be very important to you going into the beginning of the third quarter and fourth quarter of 2021. We have some great speakers that will be investing some time with you and sharing their ideas. And you will see their introductions and their bios once we start the program. But we've got Nuala Company who will be joining us, presenting in the area of people. We've got a number of other opportunities from the speakers to speak, but let me speak a little bit about the BCSP. So the Business Consulting and Strategic Planning Program pairs local businesses with volunteer experts in the area of business. We call them EIRs a lot of the time, plus we've got faculty. EIRs are executives in residence who volunteer their time to help business owners in the community solve some of their issues. And these are consulting professionals that will help us and you assess and position your businesses for the next 2 quarters. It'll involve the process of one-on-one consulting, 60 to 75 minutes of time to do that, which is more than enough time to identify issues and provide clarity and help you develop your best plan moving into the balance of 2021. We're all interested in recovery. We're all interested in bouncing back. And some of us may encounter some difficulties in the area of scaling the business and returning back to work for the people. So we are excited to do that. And we've got a number of experts that will be a part of this team. We have Nuala Company who will be joining us to speak today. Sam Clark will be joining us. Peter McLaughlin will be one of the executives who will be helping us develop the plans and helping you think through your strategic initiatives. And we've got Alan Lurchbacher who will be joining us as part of this team in the next 20 minutes, 25 minutes of discussion. So welcome. It should be fun. Have your questions as things pop up in your head. Please initiate those questions, write them down, so that when we return to the general discussion, we can have that discussion. The strategic areas we're going to review will be the areas of growth. So many of us are probably having conversations about growth. How are you growing your customer base into the second half of this year? A more important question, I think, has to do with people, because everything we do has to do with people. So a key question is how you are engaging your employees upon resuming operations in the second half. And the third has to do with innovation. How are you automating and innovating and scaling your business to stay competitive in the second half of this year? We'll have some great discussions around that, and hopefully we will generate some thinking on your part and some questions. Having said that, those are the strategic areas we're going to cover. Paige, why don't we move into the next area? So let me introduce the first speaker, Alan Lurchbacher. He's the president and CEO of F&A International. I am not going to take anything away from those 4 elements that he's going to cover, which are strategically important, we think, in the third and fourth quarter of this year. So let me turn it over to Alan. Alan, welcome.
Sorry, Alan, you're on mute. I can't unmute you.
Thank you, Miguel. And sorry about that. Yeah, in growth, I'm going to cover market, capitalization, and strategic partnership. In the market, what we want to figure out is, okay, what does the market look like? Is it a B or is it an M? $1 billion market or $1 million market? I have a lot of entrepreneurs that they let me know, well, we have no competitors. So if you have no competitors, I doubt that it's really a B market. The other thing I ask when I talk to people is, what is your company going to look like, or how are you going to get it to become a $1 billion company? And then you have to look at, what is the reach? What is the reach and where do you want to go? Is it within 50 miles of your home base? Is it in the county? Is it the state? Where do you want to go? And the reach is going to take you to the capitalization. Because once you understand the reach, then you'll know how much money you're going to need or how much capitalization you're going to need to take you into that market. On what I ask entrepreneurs, I said, do you know what DTB stands for? And rarely do entrepreneurs know DTB. I know EBITDA, I know gross margin. DTB, I've never even heard of it. It's days to broke. So if you're not tracking days to broke, you're not an entrepreneur. You have to know when you're going to run out of cash. And just to show you how I emphasize that, we used to track days to broke on the front gate on a 10 by 10 sign. So all our employees knew. And it was a little depressing when you only have 90 or 120 days and your employees are coming in. But once we got to where we had 3 years of capitalization and we took down the sign, all our employees at the next employee meeting said, why does the sign come down? And we were able to tell them that we were capitalization so that their sons and daughters were going to be able to work at our company. And I think that's really important. And the last thing, strategic partners, again, I asked you, who are the competitors? Who are your competitors? And once you understand that, who is your biggest competitors? Because what I always did is you always want to meet with your biggest competitors. And then you have to ask yourself, how do they make me a better company? And what do I do for them that makes me valuable to them? I'll give you an example. We teamed with General Dynamics and Boeing when we had less than 100 employees. And you would go, General Dynamics and Boeing, how can a 100 employee person add value? Well, the Navy had just come up with, they needed a ship that went 50 knots. And the only way to do that is to build it out of aluminum. There were no shipbuilders in the United States that could build a ship out of aluminum. And we were the only ones that actually had a ship that actually went 50 knots. So that shows you that we had that value to two very large companies where we would fit in and be able to help them. So those are the things that I think you should look at, and I really appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Alan. I'm just going to ask Miguel to unmute himself.
Yeah, that would be great. I was here, the lips were moving and nothing was coming out. So for those of you who have not had a Zoom mute moment, you just witnessed it. So anyway, Alan, what a great insight in terms of JV, joint venture opportunities for small companies. In your case, the size of 100, to work with some enterprise level companies, DoD, Defense Department, et cetera, and leverage your assets. You became what I traditionally call the unicorn inside the opportunity. So congratulations and thank you for sharing those insights. I'd like to now go turn the conversation to our next speaker, who will speak about the people element of what could be happening in the second half of this year. So Nuala, welcome. We're looking forward to your observations.
All right, thank you very much, Miguel. So against that background of growth that Alan was describing, we also know that employers are facing a variety of challenges as we transition to whatever the new normal looks like. And so really thinking about what should your return to the office look like, in your organization. So the people pillar focuses on some key workforce related areas that may need attention as you transition through a return to work, or restart or refocus your business. So we know that changes in strategy, products and services, customer base, and ways of working can all really have a very profound impact on your people. So you're going to need a solid plan to retain your best talent and also maintain productivity. So some of the key questions that businesses are facing include productivity, staffing, and of course, culture. In terms of productivity, you really need to understand, what's the optimal form and mix of work arrangements that are going to allow your organization to deliver on its goals. How much flexibility do your employees want and need? And who should make the decision about who does and doesn't get to work remotely? So we know that working from home has clearly changed employees' expectations of, and also their desire for how they should be allowed to work, given the greater degree of autonomy and flexibility that many employees have enjoyed. Just last week, the Wall Street Journal reported that more employees are quitting their jobs than at any time in the past 20 years. And obviously, there are many reasons for this, but it suggests that organizations that don't offer current and prospective employees significant flexibility will find themselves at a disadvantage when it comes to attracting and retaining them. So organizations are also asking, how can we maintain our culture if people aren't spending as much time together in the office? How can we effectively onboard new employees remotely? Think about it, there are probably many employees who were hired during the pandemic. They were hired remotely. They've never actually been to the office. So how do you ensure that your hybrid and remote work model doesn't irreparably damage or dissolve the culture that makes your organization what it is? There are many ways that we can work with you to identify immediate actions that you can take to address the workforce issues that you're facing as you transition your company to the new normal. And I very much look forward to working with you on that. Thank you.
Very good, Nuala. I mean, what a great top level perspective, and I think you hit something that I think many of our listeners today would probably benefit from is what kinds of things can you do to provide significant flexibility? I think Nuala hit on a great point in terms of the quit rate going up. People may not be returning back to work or will ask for a hybrid model. And all of that should be a consideration for your policies, both at a strategic level and a tactical level relative to communicating that to your employees in a very positive manner. And so, Nuala, thank you for stimulating that kind of thinking and thought process going forward. We have as our next speaker someone who probably spends a lot of time in the ideation world, creating, thinking, and formulating ideas and concepts. Dr. Sam Clark will also be joining us to present on his subject, which is the subject of innovation as we go into the second half of this year. So Sam, welcome and thank you.
Thanks, Miguel. So I'm going to talk a little bit about business model innovation and innovation around new opportunities just for a couple of minutes. And prior to COVID, the world was really in a change. COVID brought about a lot of changes, but we've been changing for quite a period of time. And I think COVID emphasized some of the real constraints we had in business environments, like around employees, which is what Nuala was talking about, also with logistics, things like that within your business model. And so we're still dealing with post-pandemic challenges, but I think those are just emphasized challenges of what we've been facing for a period of time. It was hard to get employees prior to the pandemic. It's hard to get employees now. It's a challenge that we face. And so it's important to always be looking ahead and finding ways to innovate. In the past, prior to the modern technology revolution, success of a business, wealth, your competitive advantages really relied on your access and control of resources. And if you could control those or have access to resources that other competitors didn't have, then you were able to be successful. And that was an important part. And really, for most of history of mankind, technology has really been a constant. And we even define the ages that of mankind in regards to technology. If you were born in the Stone Age, you died in the Stone Age. If you were born in the Bronze Age, you died in the Bronze Age. We kind of define it by technology. But that's all changed. We now have technology not as a constant. We don't live in an age of technology. We live in an age of technological change. And those really drive what the future of business looks like. And so most success and wealth and advantage that you're going to achieve as a business is less about controlling resources natural resources, or even having access maybe to all the human resources that you need. And it really depends on how do you incorporate and include technology and innovation within your business model and your opportunities. So technology is really driving innovation, and it's the results, and results are hinged on creating wealth. So that's something that's really important. If you look at the largest companies in the world, most of their value is based primarily on the innovation and technology they have, and less on the physical resources they own when we look at the wealthiest companies. So our innovation pillar is focusing on how do we help you shift your business model by adapting new technology and innovation into it. And business model transformation can consist of a variety of different strategies around digitization and digital marketing, automation, including sales automation, process automation. How do you outsource? A lot of, in the past, we brought a lot of people into the workplace, and Nuala was talking a little bit about this too. We brought people in because it was more efficient. And that's one of the theories of why a business is organized the way they do, is because of efficiency. Well, what now in a world where that may not be the case, how do we change and adapt our business model to take advantages of efficiencies that exist when you don't bring people into the workplace? Also, we know we shifted early on through web development, but now we're shifting much more onto apps. Most consumers spend majority of their time on their phones, not on a PC browsing a traditional web browser. And so there's things to consider there: system designs, the advancements in cloud computing. Talk a little bit about remote work, and you can really see some of the changes. A couple quick examples of how technology has changed industries and workplaces. You look at, for example, the accounting industry, where it used to be kind of a pyramid shape of lots of lower entry level positions, fewer middle level, and a few executive high level positions. Now it's more of a diamond shape, where there's not a lot of entry level positions because technology takes away most of that work. I also saw the other day, and this is just thinking less of maybe more on the trade space. I saw the other day, I was looking at some equipment, and you can spend about $50,000 to $100,000, and you can open up a cabinet shop, which only requires 2 people. Because automation does all the work. Even things like outsourcing and how you work with employees may be different. And there's some challenges here, but you take, for example, Uber, where they've really outsourced all of the majority of the work to independent contractors. So there's lots of ways to think about the business model and so forth. Also looking at how do you create new opportunities, and there's different ways to approach creating new opportunities. I look at one way in which maybe you have some technology, you have some ideas, and then you go and look for a marketplace for those ideas. I think that's a little more challenging. I call that more of a Silicon Valley approach. It's much more expensive and time consuming to kind of have a technology or an idea and go out and look for opportunities. Some of the best ways to find opportunities is to start with problems, to start with the issues that are trying to, that exist in society, and then creating solutions for those using innovative technologies and ideas. Some of the tools that we use to do that are things like design thinking, customer discovery. Those are our processes and tools that you can use to really help you find ways to find opportunities and be innovative. And a lot of companies are jumping on board. We have companies like IDEO, that focus on design thinking. Even Apple provides a service where it's called Enterprise Design Lab. You have IBM's Garage Thinking. You have Google's Sprint. So all these companies that we consider very innovative are finding ways to continually be innovative, continually change. So hopefully you guys can look at your business and see if there's ways in which we can help you transform your business model, adapt it for this new environment that we're in. Thanks. Turn back to you, Miguel.
Very good. Thank you, Sam. What a large list of things to consider and think about. So to all of our guests, whether you're a small entrepreneur or an enterprise level leader, Let me take you through the process of how our program is going to work. At the conclusion of this event, you will have access to an intake, a URL, which will take you to what we call a form. We need the form for a number of reasons, like name, contact information, etc. In case you're interested in the free consultation that we'll be offering. Again, we've got some great high-powered people with tremendous experience in the marketplace that could be a benefit to you. And by the way, for those people who may already be taking a look at some of these ideas, they can serve any industry. They are transformational and could be located to your industry. So the ideas themselves may apply in retail, but also may apply in manufacturing. So these are important things to consider. The team will assess an application to pair you with the correct experienced consultant will be the next step once you fill out the application. We will then go to the consultant reaching out to you and setting up a mutually convenient appointment, one-on-one, to help discuss and frame the problem statement that we would be seeking to help you with, as well as determining next steps. So you will then meet in step number 4 with the consultant to assess the challenges and develop strategic plans. And as you go through the discussions, one of the things that you should probably consider is if you've got the staff and the capabilities to implement and execute on your own, that's fantastic. We encourage you to do that sooner rather than later. But in the event that you need some support, one of the great opportunities that you have is the little school up on the hill called Cal State University San Marcos that we'd be very happy to help you begin to think about and implement those strategies that you guys discuss. So again, it's a pretty quick flowing. We have about 45 days to help you have that first meeting. So the sooner you can register, we will set you up. We'll have the conversation and see how we can help you in the 3rd and 4th quarter of this fiscal and calendar year for you. So let me go to the form. There is the link, which will also be posted in chat for you to go to at the conclusion of this meeting. But with the time that we've got remaining, I would love to open up the mics to all of our visitors and anyone that's got any questions regarding to anything that you've heard to this point in relationship to how to make a transition into the 3rd and 4th quarter. Again, with the economy opening up in California and in other states, I think revisiting your current business plans, marketing plans, and strategies, I think becomes an important element of moving into the next couple of 6 months. So let me open it up. Any questions that anyone's got, please open your mic up and we'd be happy to take them. And of course, if you don't ask questions, I ask questions. So that would be a good opportunity for anyone to ask anything they may want.
Okay, I'll go first. So my question is, well, let's say you are just a little player where there are some significant competition and your capabilities and assets are duplicated elsewhere by your competitors. What is the strategy to go forward with that?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm going to turn it over to Sam. Let me get your thinking from an innovation perspective first of how do you compete?
Well, I think that the challenge that you definitely defined one of the biggest challenges, right? If you're selling the same products in the same way, the only way in which you compete is on price. And margins are driven down to nothing. And so that is definitely something that you're in a challenging position. How do you do it? I think you have to look at innovation. Most of the time, if you're selling the same product, and you see this with a lot of companies, when they're selling the same products as a competitor, the only place you really innovate is within your business model. So can you source? Can you build? Can you create that product for a lower cost to increase margin? So when you're competing on price, you generate enough profit for yourself. Or is there a way in which you transform the sales side of the business model to create a different experience for your customers than you would get maybe from from their competitors, right? So the examples I always share is like Walmart and Target. They basically sell the same things, but they have focus on two different sides of the business model. Walmart focuses primarily on the build, create side of the business model. They're getting their products to you quicker and cheaper, and so their margins are improved, even though they're selling at a lower price or at the same prices. Whereas Target, for example, is much more of an experience. They transform their shopping into something that you enjoy and go do, right? We joke that you wear sweatpants to Walmart and you dress up to go to Target. And so that's their strategy, even though they're selling the same kind of products and services. They both sell bananas, but one, they can charge a little bit more the price because it's a better experience, and Walmart makes a lot of money because they get the banana for a lot less. So those are some things to look into, is maybe if you're selling the same product, how do we innovate either on one side or the other side of the business model?
Sam, that was a great insight. Let me ask one of our, I'm sorry?
Can I jump in on that?
Yes.
Yeah, in response to the gentleman's question, most of the businesses that are here in California are small to medium size. And to answer your question, there is a way you can compete with the larger guys. And one of the things we do at Cal State San Marcos in our Capstone program is we do marketing plans, business plans, strategic plans, and we've helped a number of companies, particularly in the last couple of years, that are smaller companies, help them to expand their business, to strategically partner with maybe somebody who's in the same field. So that's something where our team leaders, our executives in residence, our advisors could really help you if you so chose to get involved. Those teams could create you a great marketing strategy and a great marketing plan. And I would encourage you to reach out to Miguel in the program and get involved in that, because it sounds to me from what you're saying is that we would be in a position to really be able to help you.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter. C. Thomas, does that give you something to think about?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And I would also ask Alan to chime in on this, since you specifically referred to the advantage of meeting with your competition and understanding what they offer and trying to leverage that.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So I was just thinking about, and that's where I get into reach. And I said, where do you really want to reach and who do you want to touch? It's so important. If you can provide speed and the bigger people or your bigger competitors are not responsive, or you have that relationship, then that's the 50-mile thing I was talking about. If you are the person that, hey, I have this, I need this, and I pressed a button and I've got you on speed dial, then that's a great way to increase your market and to help yourself grow in the light of the other bigger competitors. Is that you're the person I know I need this, and you're the person I can trust to get it to me. And that's a great part of growth strategy.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Next question. Is there someone else who's got a burning question or an idea or a concept that you'd like to get some feedback on from this panel? Remember what I said, if you don't ask, I'll call on you. So I'm going to call on one of the people that I know, a friend, Barbara Taylor. Barbara, you work in the technology sector.
Miguel, it's so interesting. I knew you were going to call me. I just knew, friend. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question not for myself, but rather I'm going to ask a question for my spouse. So my spouse has been in procurement for more than 25 years and is looking at helping companies strategically source, which reduces cost, right, of your goods that you're manufacturing. So how is it that somebody goes into a business like that, develops a plan?
I'd like to tackle that one. You know what? Let me ask Peter to comment. Peter's worked with a few startups and successfully exited.
Yeah, and Barbara is one of my heroes in the academic and IT world. No, the two questions you always have to ask, I've learned this along the way, is number one, who cares? Who cares about your idea, your business, your concept? And then more importantly, who's willing to pay? And then what I've always encouraged entrepreneurs and people who want to start a company is figure out where there's a void in the marketplace and then try to fill that void. And if you can answer those two questions, who really cares about your product and who's willing to pay, then I think you've got a viable company. A lot of times, one of those questions can be addressed, but the other can't, and that has an impact. But one of the things I've learned over the years, particularly in my experience in teaching, is you don't have to start a unicorn company. There's a lot of little businesses I've worked with that operate on unbelievable margins, and the owners are making what I call CEO pay. So you don't have to create a big, huge Silicon Valley, what I refer to them as unicorns. You can start a small company, make a very good living, and make a lot of money. But again, if you ask those two questions, let's say I'm going to start a window washing business. Well, who cares? Well, everybody, because they've got to have their windows cleaned. But who's willing to pay, and how are you going to compete? So it's one of the things I tell people is it's easier to start a business today than ever before. All you need is the internet and a product or service. And you can create the facade that you're operating out of this huge factory up in Norco or something like that, when in reality, you're working out of an office in your house. In the old days, you had to purchase equipment, capital expenditures, you had to have a place to have the office. You don't have to do that today. So I think it's easier today than ever to start a business. Does that kind of answer your question, Barbara?
That does help. Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
Yes.
Not related to this, but when Nwala, sorry if I mispronounced your name, you discussed return to work, and I think about what should businesses be doing to retain employees. Like I read that San Diego County is really hard. There's Walmart's paying $18 an hour now just to pull off the shelves. But I have 2 kids who are unemployed and are interested in doing that. They really would like to have remote work. And as we on our campus continue to lose employees because we don't have a return to work policy, how soon should companies be thinking about it? And what should they be thinking when creating a remote work policy?
It's a great question. And I think, if you haven't already started to work on that, you're kind of behind, you're behind the 8 ball there. So I think one of the things is really understanding, what is it that employees want, and not everybody wants the same thing. So I think that, looking at, there are some people who never want to come back to the office again. There are other people who actually miss it. So I think you have to really look at, your workforce. I think it's worth actually, really doing some, actually maybe even doing kind of a pulse to really sort of see what the sentiment is in the in the organization, and how you create that flexibility that, that's a little bit more tailored. And then I think in terms of, where you have people who are remote, then it's partly, there's a piece around how do you manage those people? And then also, how do you make sure that they have the connections? If I'm a 10-year employee who has already established all of my, I've established my network, with my colleagues, my boss. So it's a very different story for me. Whereas if I'm like your children who are hired remotely, they've never been to the office, how do we make sure that they they build those same connections, so that we don't create kind of a 2-tier strategy, a 2-tier kind of system where you have the people with all the connections and the people who are just kind of out there and not as connected, not as engaged. So I think it's it's not a simple thing. So I think you need to start with some data, inside the organization, to really kind of understand what is it that your employees want, and then also how does that, how do you also at the same time maintain productivity? So is it that we have core days where everybody's in the office, or the same teams are in the office? You really need to look at that. What does the work entail? So just some thoughts on how you get started on that.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Nuala. Barbara, thank you for participating. Although I called on you, I know I did. We're at 9:04. I want to respect everyone's time. Those of you that need to move on to other things, you're certainly free to do that. There will be a video recording the page will provide at the conclusion. And for those of you that still want to stay in and enjoy the conversation or participate in it or ask another question, those of us that can stay will be happy to work with you online. So let me open it up to next question. Does anyone else have another question? Yes, let me call on Stephanie. Stephanie, welcome.
Hi, and thank you guys all for putting this on together today. My question is, so I have a artificial intelligence company. I get paid off of national competitions. It doesn't provide really emotional safety for anybody that works with me, but we do win. But kind of moving into this next phase, I got invited to submit like a $500,000 pilot proposal for a year with the VA. So I'm still waiting to hear back on that, but that kind of kicked me in my butt to let me know that, you know, all of my previous numbers last year, and I did work with Cal State for my business plan and stuff, but it was under the assumption that I'm just going, you know, slowly and steady by myself. And I guess my general question, is it okay? Like, because I can't afford my peers' salary, you know, even if I went and got a job, I could get paid way more than what I'm getting paid to having my own business right now. But when I'm thinking of expanding it and having remote workers, the ones that I would be able to invest in are from like my home state far away and rural areas. And you know, I see articles that say that remote workers are not getting picked from California, Colorado, from the, you know, these more expensive states. And even though that was my strategy a long time ago, I don't know if, I guess, strategy wise for expanding, it should be like to train people that don't have the educational experience and just kind of go from, you know, gamifying that first step, or try to make way more money so that I can afford an awesome team. So that's kind of where I'm at. And it's hard because I can automate everything. And I don't want to, because like for, you know, Lean Six Sigma and like process improvement, it's nice. But when it comes to actually wanting to make an impact with people, it's a scary thought to bring them on and then not be able to pay them. So I guess if anyone has any thing that they've seen, people like unique experiences with, because there's a lot of veterans that want to work, and it's like they, you know, and I just don't want to take advantage of students or disabled veterans or anybody that's willing to just jump on the cause. So I didn't know if anyone has any perspectives or any advice on that. So thank you.
First of all, Stephanie, that's a pretty robust question with many branches to it. And would you consider, let me ask one clarifying question. Do you consider yourself a startup business?
I do, yes.
How many employees do you have?
Just me and one other.
If you say 0, it's okay too. I just want to confirm.
Well, then all 5 of us get paid if we win. So I have 4 that have other jobs, and then one, you know, sister that putting her on data labeling.
No, that's okay. Now, there's a term you use that I think I understand in many other activities. You said when we win. What does that mean?
Yep. So last year we won with, we did 2 projects with NIST, and we won over about 110,000 on one project. This last one with the VA, it was for $50,000 and then a $500,000 pilot. So we didn't win the 50,000, but we're still in the running for the 500. So last year, all combined, we made about like $160,000 in competition winnings, and I started the business last June. So yeah, we win. And I started doing hackathons in 2015 because I was just like, I want to solve real problems. And then once I graduated from grad school, I was just like, well, this is people are really getting paid for having small teams like this. And then just the only problem that we have, it's like a whole circuit of competitors, and it's just commercialization strategy. You know, what do? We sell it to the insurance company afterwards and say, here's your model. It makes it difficult. There's a lot of resources out there, but that step from that competition to actually, you know, commercializing it and getting on that treadmill has been kind of difficult.
So one of the last qualifying question, then I'll open it up to the panel. So when you say win, are you talking about bids?
No, so 3 of the competitions were just so we did one with fire department scanning indoor houses for emergency response. We did one with the police department with augmented reality streaming IoT sensors for real-time decision making. And then we made a medical timeline generator for veterans with chronic illnesses so that they can better synthesize their medical records. So I just like to solve cool problems. And I do a lot of machine learning, computer vision, and then I reach out to my network and find where I need help.
Awesome. Let me open it up to the panel. Any thoughts and or ideas on
Yeah,
Stephanie's?
Stephanie, you said you worked last year with the university. Did you do a senior experience?
I did, yes.
Okay, and were you satisfied with the results?
I did. I do think that, you know, I have ADHD. I'm all over the place. And so I do think that kind of had an impact on it. It was great. We did how we were going to do my pricing. But like I said, I was under the assumption that I was only using the money in my bank account for starting this startup. So the moment somebody put some money in my mind, I'm like, oh shoot. So so I think I gotta reevaluate that. But because I didn't want so much of a deficit, like, you know, I don't want to not pay people or be a bad boss. So right
Well,
now it's just me. So
we had a group, a company that was pretty similar to what you were doing. They were working with the military and the police, and they had a new product that would help suppress sound, particularly when there were explosions, grenades, that type of stuff. And we put together a really, really great marketing plan for them. One of the suggestions I would make is, you know, cash is an issue. Try to find somebody who has a business similar to yours, but they can't do what you do, and maybe strategically partner with them. And then you can basically kind of use their balance sheet, their bandwidth, you know, to help grow your company. A lot of small companies that I've worked with over the last 35 years have done that. And usually what ends up happening is the larger company will end up buying your company.
mm-hmm. And I was looking into that, and I was a little nervous about that just because I've heard some horror stories of, especially because I get the preferential for certain contracts for being like disabled veteran and female. So there's a lot of positives with that. But then on the other side, I've heard some startups that what they can do is they end up just being like subcontract for a company, and they end up just not doing anything cool and just working for them all the time, and it's just like hell. But then again, I don't know. So yes.
Miguel?
Great clarification.
Yeah, thank you.
Stephanie, if you'd like a little more time, I would strongly encourage you to fill out the questionnaire.
Yes,
And it sounds like you need a sounding board. You need some ideas, some concepts on how to move forward. I actually like the joint venture approach to the degree that you can in fact get quote unquote the gigs that give you revenue, so you can start getting a higher revenue growth, and actually it would enable you to expand your services if you had more people, but you got to have more money. So it's almost a catch-22, but there is a solution for that. And just fill out the questionnaire, and we'd be happy to work with you. Stephanie, did we sufficiently explore everything with you?
We did, and I got a lot of emails in the chat and stuff, and I'm going to follow up. I appreciate it so much. Thank you all.
You bet. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Who else has a question that's still a guest here? Let's see. If we don't have any more questions, let me summarize what we've done and where we are going and what we are attempting to accomplish. Demetrius reminded me about local. Demetrius, what we have evolved in our services to be global. We have done several projects across the country, because it doesn't matter. What we've learned, one of the things we've learned about COVID is we've got the talent power in the pool. They can live anywhere on the planet. Their businesses can be anywhere on the planet for us to do great work. And we've proven that during COVID. So we've moved the needle just a tad to cover national. And I've had inquiries on a global basis also that I've declined because they did require a personal visit. And the fee structure to do that we currently charge would have to be 10 times higher if we're going to ship people to other places. So, but thank you for that perspective. Local is always important. Look, one of the things that we learned from senior experience projects, and this is not a secret, but it's important to know, we work with a number of philanthropies, about 40%, as you know, 40% of our senior experience projects, some master's experience projects are for nonprofits. I met with San Marcos Boys and Girls Club to do a senior experience project. Several questions that I asked from a consulting standpoint to better understand their sources of revenue. Once I understood their sources of revenue, it became very evident that it's important to have data-driven analysis that has been supported and reviewed by someone like CSUSM for the stamp of approval. It's like the good housekeeping seal of approval, right? Once we do a research project, we reviewed it and the numbers work. So we went from, gee, I don't really know the economic impact of what our services are in the community, to only 13 weeks later, knowing that it's between $29 and $32 ROI for what the work and services of the Boys and Girls Club of San Marcos is. That is marketable. That is defensible when you're submitting bids and asking for money. So I just wanted to share that the work that we do, we sometimes, because of confidentiality, can't share that. That number I can share because I've asked for permission to do that. But that's phenomenal. I just had that conversation last night with a bunch of business executives to share with them, how do you track your philanthropy? How do you track what you do? Stephanie, you're in a business where you're data driven. People are going to ask you for data. So you probably want to, when you get the assigned consultant, get into that conversation. How do you get hard data to present? It's called proof of concept. Well, listen, I want to respect everyone's time. It's 9:20. I appreciate the panelists who have volunteered their time, their energy, both lecturers, faculty, and I really appreciate the participation from the community. We do great work on the Hill, and our job is to promote that better. And I want to thank everyone who is here, who attended. We are probably going to continue to be of support in a variety of ways. And from my standpoint, I'm just excited that we get the opportunity to serve and the opportunity to make a difference in the minds of small businesses and in the thinking of small businesses. And at the end of the day, if we can help you with top line performance and that drops straight to the bottom line, whatever that number is, then you are great. So we usually start with taking a look at Stephanie gross profit and then see how much of it drops to the bottom line. And so from that stand, which by the way is a measure of generally how much you get a chance to keep after taxes, of course. So I want to thank you all for your time, your energy, your enthusiasm. I expect to stay in touch with many of you, and go out and make it a great Tuesday. It's only 9:22. And we will have continuing conversations and have some fun along the way. So I want to thank you all for being here, and we will be in touch with you.